What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another very exciting episode right here on the MI Gardener channel. Today, I'm going to be showing you something super fun that comes into our inbox so frequently, I figured why not make a video on it. And that's how to garden even if you are dirt poor broke. Now, this is not something that a lot of people are proud to admit. It's not something that people are, flaunting their lack of financial freedom, but it's something that at the MI Gardener channel, we are very passionate about. Now, we are very passionate about helping people increase their standard of living without increasing their cost of living. That's very important to remember, that having the ability to produce food gives you food freedom that does not cost anything, or it costs very, very little. We get comments all the time. In fact, what prompted this video was a gentleman that does not even have a computer of his own. He uses a public computer from the public library, which is a great resource that I recommend you all to use if you don't have the ability to have a computer of your own. Use some resources that are out there. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic resource to watch these videos on. And he said, Luke, I'd love to put a garden in. I'd love to grow food for my family. I just don't know. I don't know where to start. And so you know what? I said, you know what? I'm going to make this video for you and break down exactly how we do this on a budget. This is very inexpensive, and everyone has a different budget. I'm aware of this. And there are cheaper ways to do it. But he said he wanted to do it exactly like how we do it. And he said he wanted to make sure that he kept his raised beds under $50. So I'm going to show you guys how you can have a garden, a raised bed garden, like what we have for under $50. And that's because he said, you know what, if I can take $5 a week, I think I can get $5 a week. If I work for 10 weeks, I can save about $50. I feel pretty confident I can do that. I'd love to start with one raised bed and kind of see where we go from there. And so I said, you know what, that's actually a really good plan. Always kind of just taking little bite-sized pieces out rather than just doing the whole thing at once. And you might be sitting there in your position and say, wow, $50, man, that's like nothing. And you have to remember, not everyone comes from the same position you're in. We put our whole garden in all at once. This whole garden cost us about $600 to put in. And for some people, that's an entire year or even 2 years of saving. Let's get into it. Let's talk about how this bed here costs us less than $50. We're going to start with the wood. The wood itself is untreated pine. It's just regular pine, dimensional lumber cut from our local lumber yard. You don't have to go to your local lumber yard to get your lumber, but sometimes if you go to Habitat for Humanity, it's a great place, a wonderful resource to get some inexpensive lumber or free lumber. You can go there and get dimensional lumber. Fantastic resource. However, a lot of times they have kind of just bits and pieces and raw ends, and you can definitely make some raised beds with it, but sometimes it's difficult to create a full 48 square foot bed that looks very uniform and is consistent. And if that's a necessity to you, then it's a little difficult, I've found, from Habitat for Humanity. But if aesthetics doesn't matter to you, which I don't think it should in this case, you can get lumber for almost completely free, if not free. The other thing that you can do is you can go to your local lumber yard and you can say, hey, I don't need necessarily the prettiest cuts. Can I have what's called a second cut? A second cut usually has live ends. It's like B or C grade lumber. It's kind of just, it's the leftover scraps from the lumber mill that are intentionally sold at a very discounted rate, usually about 70% of the actual price. We went with pretty dimensional lumber here because we want it to look pretty. But if you're looking at food production, pretty is not on your hierarchy of needs. You need food rather than beauty at this moment. So what you can do is you can go and you can get those second cuts. Those are very readily available at almost any big box store that sells lumber. Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards, even your local mom and pop lumber yards. You can get those for very inexpensive. The lumber here cost us $26. However, we compared it with the second cuts, the stuff that was kind of raggedy and not quite as aesthetically perfect. And at a 70% discount, you're only going to be paying about $3 to $5 for all of the lumber. That seems crazy, but at our local mom and pop lumber yard, it was about $5.50 for all the lumber here. And so you can really save a ton of money. Rather than $26, you're paying about $5. So you're saving a ton of money. The other thing is that, and that also does not include tax. I'm just going to be honest there. That doesn't include tax. It depends on your state, whatever. But without tax, it was $5.50 roughly for all the lumber to buy second cuts. That's $5.50 to get your lumber. The next thing is the soil. Now, people always get freaked out about soil. They say, soil is so expensive. Well, it all depends on how you're doing it and where you're getting your soil from. Obviously, the cheapest way is to simply double dig your beds. You put the raised bed in, you dig the soil up, and if you have good quality soil, we've talked about this before, we've done a video on how we basically filled our raised beds without having to bring any more soil in. It's because we already had really good soil where we were at. We just double dug the beds, and we essentially sunk the beds into the soil a little bit, but we used that soil to fill the raised beds. And now we had all the benefits of the raised beds and all the benefits of the really good quality soil without having to buy any more. First method, it's pretty much free. Second method is by buying soil. But where do you buy it? Well, so the thing is this bed right here was filled with bagged soil. What we always recommend doing is going with what we call filler. Filler is a fantastic resource because it's not that it's bad. Filler is usually bad, but filler, in our case, is peat moss. You can buy a 3 cubic foot bale of peat moss for about $9 at Lowe's. We just saw them as we were getting some plants the other day, so I know the price is around that price. Obviously, it depends on state as well, but you know, it should be right around $9. In a 3 cubic foot bale will fill up roughly about a quarter to maybe a fifth of the bed. So it'll dent the bed, but it won't fill it up a whole lot. You're going to still need some more soil. So what I recommend doing is getting 3 bales for this size bed, 3 bales of peat moss. That's $27. Now that might seem like a lot of money, but once you get the soil in, once you get the foundation in, you really don't have to add that much more soil year after year. So again, we're keeping this under $50 for the entire raised bed, including the plants. And so you get the 3 bales of peat moss, that's $27 at our local prices. And then for the nutrients, what I recommend doing is going with either a composted manure. Any local farmer around here probably has cows, sheep, horses, goats, chickens, rabbits, a lot of different options available to you. Throw a post up there on Craigslist or Facebook and say, hey, I'm really in need, I'm financially in need of some soil for my garden. Does anyone have any? I guarantee you, the world is not a bad place. It's not as bad as people make it out to seem. There's someone out there that has rabbits that would be, hey, I got lots on hand. Or I know a lot of farmers that say, I don't even know where to put my composted manure. Can someone come take it? That exists out there, and you can get free compost. Hey, fill up the whole bed if you can for free. Why not, right? But if you can only get a little bit, relying on that peat moss will give you that organic matter and the fluffiness that your soil needs to stay really healthy and stay keep from being compacted, and it's going to allow your plant roots to just thrive in that. So relying a little bit on that peat moss mixed with the manure is a great combo. If you can't get your hands on any manure, what I recommend doing is getting some composted, it's composted mushroom compost. So they take horse manure or cow manure, and then what they do is they grow mushrooms in it, and this is just the refuse. So they usually sell it for pretty inexpensively. In fact, a bag at our local hardware store is only $1.50 for mushroom compost. The quality is great, the nutrients are great, and the price is great. And so if you need to fill up the rest, that's what I'd fill it up with. It's really inexpensive. And in fact, if we had to use just assuming we couldn't get any compost at all for free from any other sources, if we had to buy the peat moss and the broken down mushroom compost, using those 2 ingredients, this bed here would only cost us about $38 in soil cost. So now that you got your raised bed built and filled, it's time that you fill it with plants. That's the last thing you need to get your garden growing. What I'd recommend doing is starting with these. Now you might be asking yourself, and you probably saw me holding these the whole video and thought, what on earth is he doing with those? These are your plants. No, not actually plants. It's what they contain that can become plants, which are seeds. Everything in my hand is a seed. It's a form of food production. This right here is a day-old tomato. Got it for free from our local grocery store. I don't know what type of tomato it is, but in my case, if food production is my first priority, I don't care what seeds are contained in here because I know they're going to produce a tomato. That tomato is food for my family. It might be the same type of tomato when it produces. It might be bigger. It might be smaller. It might be a different color. I don't know. But what I do know is if I plant the seeds from this tomato, I'm going to get tomatoes that grow from it. The next thing I have is a pepper. Now peppers, You want to make sure that you get a ripe pepper. A lot of times they pick unripe peppers and they ripen them with ethylene gas. Same thing with tomatoes, but peppers are definitely something to do this with. A lot of times you see a lot of green bell peppers that are starting to kind of turn a color. They're turning a color because they're not actually green bell peppers. They're usually yellow or red bell peppers genetically, but they've been picked early to be sold as a green bell pepper. Go for this color pepper, an orange, a yellow, a red. Go with a pepper that is nice and ripe. And if it's a day old, if it's bruised, this one had some wrinkles on it, and I simply said, "Are you throwing that out?" I talked to the food service, or not the food service, to the produce department manager, and I simply said, "Hey, if you have any stuff that you're gonna be throwing out, I'll just happily take it." Got this pepper here, perfectly fine. Open it up. Not only is it, free food, because a lot of times they throw out food that's perfectly fine anyways. There's really nothing wrong with it other than a few wrinkles. That's fine in my opinion. You get free food plus seeds. All right, and the third and final free seed that I got just from one round of asking one grocery store what they were throwing out. This is just from one grocery store, mind you. I got this stuff. So the last one was a 7-bean soup mix. There was a 3-pound bag that had fallen off the shelf and broke open, so obviously they can't sell it. They were throwing it out. I simply took some just for my video because I didn't need all the seeds, obviously. So I just took some in this bag here, and I can see an assortment of, well, there's 7 beans. I can see a kidney bean, a lentil, possibly a lima bean. I think it's a lima bean. There's some cowpeas, possibly. It's just an assortment. But at the end of the day, I know these are going to produce beans if I grow them, and those beans are high in protein, high in fiber, super high in nutrition for you, iron as well. They can really help to elevate your nutrition, and it's free. It's totally free. You didn't have to pay a single penny for these. And even if you don't have, let's say a bag didn't rupture and break. Not everyone's that lucky, right? This, if you bought this from your local grocery store, a lot of places have like a bulk food section where you just scoop it out and you pay by the pound. This many seeds, there's probably 800, 900 seeds in here, maybe more. And this right here at our local bulk food store would have only costed about 30 cents. 30 cents for this many seeds is pretty incredible. You're really not paying that much for a ton of seeds. And granted, I don't know what they're going to produce, but I do know they're going to produce beans because they're certainly not going to produce a tomato, right? So I know what I'm getting when I plant these, and that's awesome. So those are 3 free seeds that I got from just one store. But you can do this with anything: cantaloupe, watermelon. Make sure they're a seeded watermelon. Cantaloupe, watermelon. You can go with honeydew, muskmelon. You can do this with so many different things. As long as they are fully mature and they have viable seeds inside, you can grow them. You can also do this with bunching onions. You can do this with leeks. You can do this with actual onions. You can use the onion tops to eat. And so you can get a lot of those for free. You can even get potatoes, believe it or not. Potatoes, make sure they're organic. You can take potatoes and throw them in your beds and they will produce potatoes for you. So there's so many options that you can use to grow food for your family that you don't have to pay a penny for, because grocery stores all around the United States and the world have a waste problem, and that's throwing out food that might be slightly imperfect, might be slightly blemished, but it still has viable seeds in it. You can take that seed and you can grow it in your garden, and you can grow free food for your family, and it doesn't have to cost you a penny. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something new, and I really truly hope that you'll utilize this information to grow more food and spend less money than you think, because even if you're not in a financial crunch, you could still use some of these tips to still spend less money. And I don't know who doesn't want to do that. So, all right, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. And let me know in the comments box below if this video helped you or enlightened you on a topic. And I do understand also that there are even cheaper ways to do this. You don't have to let me know that. I know there's cheaper ways to do this, but based on the viewer that was asking me about how we grow specifically for less than $50, this can be possible. Exactly what we're doing here can be possible for less than $50 a bed. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you learned something new. And as always, this is Luke from the My Gardener channel reminding you to grow big or go home. We'll catch you all later. See ya. Bye.